hole number 3 against some heavy hitters. These are going to be high proof ryes that you're not going to want to miss. Welcome back to Pars and Pours, a golf-centric whiskey channel, because both golf and whiskey are meant to be shared and very social. I'm a 7-time Golf Digest America's Best, and we've also completed the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. So we're kind of mixing it all together. So this is hole number 3. Now in the beginning we had two that had 2 separate stories, and again we're keeping the things separate, but these are high proofers. And one of them is the Hard Truth Sweet Mash Rye, which is the number 3 rye that is being out there right now, and they will tell you that. We went to the distillery, and that's how we got this one. And the other one is Old Forester Single Barrel Rye. Now, this one's a fresh crack right there. So we're going to give this one an opportunity to air just a little bit so we can give it a fair trial, and we're going to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to air these things out, and we're going to come back in just a few minutes just so we can do this. So again, as we're talking about it, Old Forester and Hard Truth. So Hard Truth Sweet Mash Rye. Sweet mash means that each and every time they make a batch, that they've totally cleaned out their operations and they start over, and hence sweet mash. And this is straight rye whiskey, uncut, unfiltered, at 121.3 proof, and made in Brown County, Indiana. Right, Brown County, Indiana. If you've never been, I suggest it highly. It is a great place to go visit, particularly when you get to go ride in ATVs and go do that. Now, Old Forester, if you've ever been into whiskey, you know Old Forester. It's got its own particular history, Brown-Forman. And this is a single barrel rye coming in at 128.9. All right, and this is part of their single barrel program, in the rye barrel strength is what they're calling it, rye barrel strength. This one comes from Warehouse K Floor 1. So Floor 1 would mean that the temperature shifts are very, very thin. They're not very aggressive, so I'm hoping to see something smooth. So okay, we're going to come back in about 10 minutes, and we're going to give these guys a run for their money for hole number 3. Because after hole number 3, now everybody's on the same page. So I've had to do 3 different holes, the original holes, in order to make that happen. So let's get going.
A few moments later.
Okay, we've been back after a few minutes, and more than a few, obviously. And we're going to tell you, so Hard Truth it started in 2017. And the Sweet Mash Rye is exactly what it is. It gets a brand new batch. They clean everything out, and it starts over. Hence, Sweet Mash Rye. All right, it's in Brown County, Indiana. My wife and I took a visit there, and it's definitely worth the trip. Now, across the street, there is a state park type hotel, and it is phenomenal. That's where we stayed, and you can literally coast down, go across the street, and then drive up and go to it. They also have a restaurant that we ate at, and I believe I had a fish and chips that was very, very good. So the restaurant there, they have a restaurant, the distillery, an ATV trail distillery tour in which you can taste different things. We took the regular tour, and it was really, really, really nice. They have a very nice compound there in which to do this from. Now, they also have a 4-grain bourbon, which I highly recommend. But if you get a chance and you're in the southern part of Indiana, between Indianapolis and Louisville, this is the place to stop. Now, the last part about this is not a 95.5 rye. This is a 94 rye. All right, 94.6 in the rye component. So it's a little different, and they're always telling you they're the number 3 rye. This is the number 3 rye in the world. So we're just going to find that out at 121. Now, Old Forester, everybody knows about Old Forester. It has a tremendous history with Brown-Forman. However, this particular rye is called the Normandy rye. Okay, the Normandy rye has a 61% rye count, a 12% malted barley, and the rest is corn. So this could have a whole lot different. Now, the fact that it was down on the first floor and it matured for a while, that is something else. The other part about this is that this is about a 5 to 6 year bourbon, where this is a 2 to 3 year bourbon. So will proof decide it, or will age decide what we go for? Again, what we talked about is we talk about the nose, we talk about the palate, and we talk about the uniqueness in order to get it. And this is hole number 3 at Bethpage Black, because that's where they're going to be playing. And so we're alternating. So this is for the right hand side this time around. Again, it's rich in caramel. There's a little bit of the ethanol in there, as one would expect from a high proof bourbon or a high proof rye whiskey. Rye whiskey. There we go. A little bit of a sweetness. Again, in all of these, I'm waiting to get that rye spice just come up and smack me in the face, but I have yet to do that. A bit of a caramel, a bit of a sweetness, and then a small bit of the grain. So nothing to write home about, but it's surprising as high a proof that it is that you wouldn't get something a little bit more aggressive out of it, and with the youthfulness of it too. Okay, again, we're getting this one. I'm getting the fruity note, the higher, brighter note again. Wow. Yeah, this was a little deeper. This one's a little brighter, and again a little bit sweeter on the nose. So as far as the nose goes, we're going to give it to the Old Forester, and the only reason being is, again, neither one of them have given me that grain spice. What I get is a lot of the sweeter notes. This one is more of your traditional, what I call a traditional bourbon note, where this one comes in with 3 or 4 different layers of, you get the red fruit, you get the sweetness maybe of the caramel, you get a little bit of the barrel char, and it just a much more pleasurable nose. So we're going to give that one a 7 to a 5. I haven't got one that's going to blow me out of the water just yet. And again, just because we're starting from the right, we're going to give this one the first sip of the day. Surprisingly enough, so this one attacks the front of the palate, lets you know that it's right there. It would call it a finish, but it is also, it gives you that the very thing that you nose is right there on the very front, and it skips the mid palate and goes straight to the back. And I'm getting a very, very strong final finish. So those of you that like a strong final finish, this one could be the way to go for you. Yep, so what we get is that caramel flavor that we were talking about before. It hits the middle and the beginning of the palate and just goes straight to the back and gives you a very, very strong finish, which is not surprising based on the age that it's been in the barrel. Also, I've been read up that it ages in a 30-gallon barrel, not a 56-gallon barrel. Now, hopefully that's true. Okay, to Old Forester. Now I have to say, and not to be leaning one way or to another, Hard Truth does put out a few other bourbons that I do prefer. They have their 4-grain bourbon that is just absolutely fantastic, and then they have a malted rye which is just chocolate for days. This one is their we'll call it their flagship model, and that's the way to go. Now, when you get into Old Forester, their Prohibition series, their 1910, their 1920, their 124, 1897, those are typically profiles that I prefer. A little bit darker, a little bit deeper, and they go for there. And then I do have my favorites in between all that. Let's get to this one. Again, the same nose. Now this is the one I get that finally gives me a bit of rice spice, but it's all on the back end. This high proof stuff, sometimes it can just wipe over your senses and you get nothing, or you can get different levels of depth on them. So far, this one, it tastes just like it knows. The Hard Truth tastes just like it knows. A little bit hot and a little bit youthy, but not terribly bad. Again, it would make this would be a fine mixer for any drink that you wanted to make that required a whiskey. Now, as I sit here and I let this thing age just a little bit more, I'm starting to get that the finish is just starting to sit right here. We're getting a very strong finish on that, which is typical of a 128 proof. Wow, right? I'm starting to get more of the caramel flavoring now. It's still, again, the rye has been hidden in both of these dramatically well. And then when the proof comes through, you can figure out that in the middle of the palate to the back of the palate is just all about the proof. It's all about what you get to be able to taste it. Now, the thing is, you know, when we're drinking bourbon, or even rye or even wheats, it doesn't matter. Do you get the flavors that you enjoy, right? That's what we're really looking for. Do you get the flavors that you enjoy? And that's what we really have to ask ourselves on this one. That gets to the uniqueness part of it. And these are both high proofers. 7 points decides the difference between the two. And the question is, do you get the different layers that you're looking for in either one of these? And in this one, I'm going to have to give the nod probably to the Old Forester, in that I'm getting the red fruit, I'm getting the caramel, and then I get the finish. And it's a strong finish because it is a higher proof, to be sure. Where this one is, you can taste the youthfulness in it, and that you get they're very good, to be sure. A little brighter, and you get that, you can tell it's been a little bit younger. Again, I told you before, I really like the darker notes, and that's what we're getting out of the Old Forester. Yep, and now what we're getting for it, and it just hits you just incredibly well. You get all the flavor notes on the very front, you get the oily finish in the middle, and then this strong finish on the back. So again, both of these are higher proofers. Again, much like the holes 1 and 2, they're very close. However, if we're going to look at it, I do like this. This is a phenomenal mixer for anything that you wanted to make a mixed drink for. This one is going to stand its own on anything else in the same fashion. However, as a single barrel at 130, it's going to pack an extra punch. So if you're a proof person, this is the way to go. Even at 121 to 128, it's just markedly different. It's a little more deep, it's a little more complex. It's just a little bit better. So this one is kind of that out of the sand trap, and they're both hitting out of the sand. Who got a little bit closer? The Old Forester got a little bit closer. This guy's got a 3-inch putt, where this guy's got a 3-foot putt, and that's really where it comes down to. So Old Forester is going to take the hole and move on to the bracket, and we're going to go from there. So again, if you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. We need to really bolster the viewership, and give us some comments on what you would like to see going forward, or things that we can improve going into the next bracket, because this is the last one. Now we're into the full-on bracket, and we're going to start talking about holes after the Bethpage holes, as well as the bourbon itself. So again, thank you for viewing, and as always, we want you to save your pars and share your pours.